Not many titles can fight for the spot of greatest game of all time. Metal Gear Solid 5, Half-Life 2, and Minecraft are all amazing and unforgettable games that easily can contend for the top spot of best game of all time for me. But the one that always comes to mind when I think of a game that has profoundly impacted me, it's Halo 3 ODST. Real quick before this video gets started, I just want to thank you all for the feedback I got on the last video. The support we got was really inspiring, and I'm thankful to each and every one of you that watch these videos and enjoy them. I really hope you guys enjoyed this one as well, and let's get right into it. Like a fine wine, ODST is a game that only gets better with age. Most gamers who have played a first-person shooter likely have a Halo game that's that game for them, the iconic one, and probably the one you grew up on. For some, it's Halo Reach, for others, one of the original trilogy games. It's likely that at least one of these games makes you feel something. Maybe your friend had it, or maybe as a kid it was the gift you got for Christmas one year. Regardless, for me, the one game that defines the series in my eyes is Halo 3 ODST. I remember seeing the game for the first time when I was around 10 at a family friend's house, and I was entranced with the game. Unfortunately for me, however, I wouldn't have the opportunity to play the game again in any significant amount for nearly another 6 or so years, that being during my spring break in 2017. I remember the day perfectly. It was a rainy April weekend. Me and my friend had the place to ourselves, and we booted up Halo the Master Chief Collection on his Xbox One. Checking out the selection of Halo games to play, we finally decided on ODST. Never having actually beaten ODST, the idea of playing through the game properly and with a friend motivated us to start a playthrough and beat the game once and for all. Originally released in late 2009, Halo 3 ODST takes place at the end of the Halo 2 story and puts you in the boots of an ODST, an orbital drop shock trooper. These are specialized Marines with the unenviable role of dropping feet first into hellish combat situations via high-speed drop pods. These futuristic versions of modern-day paratroopers are only slightly more equipped than the standard Marine, but an even further cry from Spartans like the Master Chief, which you play through much of the series as. This in-between from foot soldier and one-man army means you aren't mindlessly slaughtering waves of enemies, nor getting slaughtered yourself. You go from quite literally taking on the alien threat single-handedly to fighting for your life against a small patrol you happen to stumble across. This change was somewhat nice to me, as seeing the perspective of huge world-spanning conflict between humanity and aliens from the view of a rank-and-file soldier feels a lot more immersive than that of a badass hero like the Master Chief. And I'm not saying it necessarily makes the game better for doing that, but it does make it different, and I respect it for doing so. In Halo 3 ODST, you play as the Rookie, a silent protagonist and the newest member of Alpha 9, a squad of ODSTs preparing to drop over the Earth city of New Mombasa. On the surface below, a battle is raging for the city, and the squad is given an unknown and mysterious task by Captain Dare, who takes control of Alpha 9 from their leader, the charismatic and brave Gunnery Sergeant Buck. The rest of the squad consists of Dutch, the heavy weapon specialist, Romeo the marksman, and Mikey, the explosive ordnance expert. After the assignment to board the Covenant carrier gets changed last minute by Captain Dare, Alpha 9 is ordered to change drop zones from the ship right as it enters slipspace and releases an EMP, knocking the ODSTs off trajectory and knocking out the Rookie in the resulting crash. Waking up 6 hours after the drop, the Rookie awakens to find his pod launched into a building far off the ground. After making sense of his surroundings and exiting the pod, the player is given access to an open and expansive city. Unlike the rest of the Halo series, the open streets of New Mombasa allow for freeform exploration to an extent. This means that there are multiple ways to reach a destination, which I personally find a welcome shift from the more linear progression of many similar shooters. This approach also helps create the feeling of a living city, as you never really feel like you've seen every nook and cranny. As the rookie ventures through a war-torn New Mombasa, he finds clues pertaining to the outcome of his squad mates in the hours before, each clue giving insight into that squad mate's fate. Finding these points of interest gives you a flashback into what they experienced after the crash, and puts that player in control of that squad mate for a short period of time. Halo 3 ODST takes a lot of notes from detective stories and film noir, using muted color tones, a jazz-influenced soundtrack, and a high overall contrast with good use of darkness. This theme of detective that the rookie fits into gives a new and interesting perspective that other Halo games and other shooters in general have not generally attempted before or since. Atmosphere. If I had to give one major reason why this game is impactful to me, it's the atmosphere. The feeling of walking down the streets of New Mombasa, the rain hitting the ground as a jazz-inspired symphony starts to swell, just creates a sense of ambiance as you explore the war-torn city. The almost eerie evening setting of the streets, along with the feeling of a hastened evacuation, tells more about the story of the events that led up to your arrival more than any dialogue or text crawl. Yes, I know this is a love letter, but one gripe I may have with ODST would have to be the intro text scroll. It doesn't really take me out of the game, as we haven't even begun playing yet, but the nearly 2 minutes of on-screen text feels like a cop-out for what could have been explained in a few action-packed cutscenes. Despite this, the intro text is still nostalgic to me, and it is contextually informative, so maybe it's not so bad. Back to the atmosphere, something that is new to this game compared to other games in the series is that of its darkness. As an ODST, you gain access to the visor, which acts as both your night vision, vitally critical during the dark New Mombasa street sections, and as your friend-foe identification via the heads-up display. The dim lighting that encompasses many of the environments throughout the game creates a feeling of mystery and isolation as you explore the desolate cityscape. The visor is a must-have during the street missions, as some areas are nearly pitch black without any visual aid. When it comes to the Halo games, there are many strong and compelling characters throughout the series. The Arbiter, Miranda Keyes, and Sergeant Johnson all bring the human element to the games. This is also one of the greatest strengths of ODST. Playing as and interacting with your squad mates, hearing them banter between each other, and seeing the plot unfold together helps complement the isolated and dark street missions as the rookie. The dichotomy between the marooned lone soldier and the stories of the splintered fragments of Alpha 9 keeps the gameplay loop fresh and familiar, while helping build the world and expand on the sense of scale that a large industrial center such as New Mombasa should possess. Fighting through a nature reserve as Dutch in one mission, only to hop across rooftops of skyscrapers with Romeo and Buck in the next, creates a panorama of the broken city and the widespread battle for its control. Now, you should know where this is going. You really cannot talk about Halo 3 ODST without talking about the musical score. Composed by the legendary Martin O'Donnell and Michael Salvatore, the soundtrack complements the noir setting and sense of mystery that is present throughout the game. There's a good mix of calm, jazz-inspired tracks, along with intense and adrenaline-pumping songs to fit the mood of any firefight or dark alley you may encounter. Listen to any of the following tracks and you'll know exactly what I mean. I feel as if I could talk about Halo ODST for hours, but I don't want to take away from the punch of this classic. And similar to the game itself, I believe a shorter and more concise approach is best at the end of the day. This game is the nostalgia game for me. Boot it up on a rainy afternoon, either alone or with friends, and be prepared to be swept away to the streets of New Mombasa, SMG in hand, and a mystery to be solved.